All right, let's turn our attention now to a stock that is always on our radar here at Yahoo Finance, and that is Tesla. News over the weekend that the company is issuing a recall for some 285,000 vehicles in China, including about 90% of the Tesla vehicles made locally, so made at the Shanghai factory by the company. Brian Sozzi, you flagged this story for us this morning, but I never know what to make about vehicle recalls for Tesla or any other automaker. They're issued all the time. The stock, as we can see this morning, doesn't really move on the name, but there is analyst commentary out today on what this news could mean for Tesla, though, of course, these commentaries are always followed by we reiterate our outperform or buy rating, something of that equivalent.
Yeah, of course. You always have to hedge your position if you're an analyst, Myles. But I think we're learning. You and I, Myles, grew up thinking when you see auto recall news hit the wires, it's a faulty brake system, and all of a sudden, all these GM, Ford, Toyota cars have to be recalled to your local service station, and you may not have a car for a week and a half. But what we're learning here, at least with Tesla in this particular recall, they were able to offer an over-the-air software update that helped alleviate the problem. And that's all fine and good. But I will say this, though. It does not help some of the credibility issues Tesla has been having in the key China market, I would say, over the past 3 months. And we're seeing this also reflected in the stock price. I mean, Tesla shares at about current levels, I mean, they are still down. They have not been able to eclipse the May 7th closing price of about $672. And I know we all like our technical analysis here at Yahoo Finance. If the stock were to get past 672, I mean, the next clear shot is 762. That is the April 13th close for Tesla. So a lot of resistance on the upside to Tesla here as the bad news somewhat piles up into the most recent quarterly results. Where the bad news is not piling up, Myles, is some of these competitors, these EV competitors in the China market. I'm looking at shares right now of Li Auto, XPeng, and NIO. Shares up ranging from 25 to 30% over the past month, outperforming Tesla. And you mentioned analyst notes, and I think this is a good, reasonable one, a contrarian take on Tesla, not that outperform rating from a Tesla bull. This comes from Brian Johnson over at Barclays, who has an underrate rating on Tesla and a $230 price target. So I would say he's an uber bear. He's noting Chinese industrial policy in EVs was designed to use competition to spur better EVs from local OEMs and joint ventures, and has succeeded, meaning Tesla is not as crucial anymore. Obviously, Tesla is still a crucial player in the market, but I think what Johnson is trying to say is don't disregard these competitors here.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, Sozzi, when you think about Tesla's presence in both markets, right? I think we can all agree or grasp the concept, which is really the bull case, which is that there's a much larger addressable market, early addressable market in China because of that industrial policy you outlined, right? The government can say, okay, people need to now buy electric vehicles with much more force than even the generous credits that are offered to U.S. buyers, and so that creates a larger market for Tesla to sell into China. But as you mentioned with Li and with XPeng and NIO, they have more robust competitors that are further along in their process. Whereas here in the U.S., we can also all agree Tesla is far ahead of its key competition. If you think about, even the impressive release we saw from Ford, that's still a vehicle that's, more than a year out. And then what is the uptake on the electric F-150 and sort of how does that all roll from there? Tesla's had a very considerable lead on its competitors here in the U.S. So even with a smaller market, a slower growing market, the company can, kind of say, well, we've got the share growth potential perhaps here in the U.S. And I think it creates a very interesting, it's now creating, I guess I should say, a more interesting bull-bear conversation than there has been in some time on the name, because it was really emotional around Elon's presence, around whether the company was going to remain solvent. This is now going back 2 or 3 years. But I think now with the two very different dynamics that the company is facing in its China market and in the U.S., where it is a leader in both, but has very different competitive outlines going forward, I think creates, like I said, a robust conversation, let's say, as robust as it can be when it comes to Elon Musk and Tesla and the passions that those two brands engender among the loyal.
No, you're right on, Miles. And I think it's very important for Tesla, those bulls that are still in the stock, and there are many. China is going to be the canary in the coal mine because the competitors are there. NIO, Xpeng, they are on the low end of the market, but they're also putting out these really cool-looking, high-tech vehicles that compete with Tesla on the high end. So if you are inclined to watch Tesla's monthly China sales, and that comes out from the government, Tesla does not report monthly China sales, but those numbers still do come out. If those growth rates start to slow, perhaps you need to take a step back if you're a trader and you're bullish on a Tesla and try to dovetail what might happen in the U.S. GM is coming out with some very, very credible cars. I look at the Cadillac Lyriq that's coming out soon. Very credible electric high-end vehicle from that company. You have Lucid Motors. We just talked to their CEO last week. Very credible, very expensive $140,000 car that in some respects really blows away anything that Tesla is making. You have Ford coming out with electric vehicles of its own. I've been seeing them. Going to see a lot more of them in coming months and years. So the competition for Tesla is picking up big time, and that is a different dynamic than what has been driving the stock over the past 2 years, where Tesla essentially has owned the EV market globally.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Saz, as well at the beginning of the segment, the technical setup, as Jared has outlined for us many times, has been a lot more encouraging for Tesla over the last several months. But we'll be seeing how that plays into the news flow again that we're getting here over the weekend with some 285,000 vehicles in China facing a recall.